Welcome back, everybody. This is Mog on Mog's Cast, playing some more Kerbal Space Program with you folks today. So, I have decided we're going to go back out to Dres today, but this time with a lander. We're going to actually do a landing on the surface instead of just leaving something up in orbit and calling it good. So here we go, about to launch. So heads up for you folks with headphones. Ooh, that was a little louder than I intended. My apologies there. But that should be it for at least loud hiccups and things like that. It gets pretty mellow after the launch. So, yeah, we're going to be launching up. We've got a new rocket here that I've put together for this mission specifically. Nothing, like, too fancy or nothing like that, but a good little lander, nice and compact, got good energy consumption, or energy generation, I should say, with not too much consumption, and, yeah, should do the trick for us just fine. Dres is a pretty slow gravity planet, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. I've already checked to make sure that we're going to be just fine for delta V in this stage, and we're just going to be fine for our phase angles. The planets are already lined up for the most part. We're going to be pretty much getting up into orbit and then burning right for it. There goes our first drop tank, so let's kick those off there. And let's crank back up our speed, because we were pushing up on our terminal velocity there pretty quick. Didn't want to hit that. It'd be a waste of fuel, as you guys are well aware of by this point. But yeah, so we're getting all launched up. This should be a pretty straightforward thing. As you can see, the launch stage is a little different than what you've seen before. What I've done is I on top of the interplanetary stage, I put an additional stage in here that could be considered an interplanetary stage because it's basically a couple of nuke engines, so really efficient with a good amount of fuel. Now this is just there to provide that extra delta V in case we need it. I can ditch that if need be, but it's mainly to kind of get a good circularized orbit without having to use the lander's fuel, and then we can just kick it off and land. So getting up there's the 200, but we're already above that for our terminal velocity, so I'm just going to keep letting that climb a bit. Getting up close there, we're about 9 kilometers off the surface at this point, and getting speed pretty good here. I'm going to start going ahead and turn over here at this point. Oh, not just yet. There goes our other drop tanks, so let's kick those off. Now let's tilt over. So yes, we're above 10k now. This should be just fine. Get all ready to go here. Start building up our orbital velocity. So you guys have seen this a whole bunch, and I'm trying to save time on some of these videos. I was noticing they're getting up closer to an hour, so I'm going to come back at you guys as we get up into orbit. Okay. So getting up here into orbit, as you can see, we've already dropped our final launch stage, and because of that, we are down to our last interplanetary stage and our last core stages, beginning with our interplanetary stage. Normally, I have my launch stage above me on this point. I think this craft, apparently, is a little heavier than my normal craft that I've been launching up lately, so that's a little bit of a change. But that shouldn't be a problem. I've got a ton more delta V in this thing than some of my other craft all had, so shouldn't be an issue. And we're gonna call that good, I think, for up in orbit there. It's 103 by 97 basically, so about 6 kilometer difference from apoaps to periaps. Not terrible, and that should be fine enough for doing this. So let's take a look at our phase angle here. Dres is 82.19. That's still a bit above what we need, so that's fine. That means we have time. So zooming on out, let's take a look and target, not Elu, there's Dres. Oops, don't want my phase angles there, want them over there. So let's take a peek. What can we do here? How close are we going to be? If we start our burn approximately right here... No, I want to create a node, not select that, and start burning. Where will we end up? Grr. Oh, got an encounter with the Mun there. It's not what we're after. Oh, okay, that's fine. Oh my gosh, stupid node system. Open that back up. Zoom back out. And how close are we gonna be? Apparently an unknown amount of closeness. If we go a little further... What did that say? Come on. Target position. So we will be behind it. Let's see, what can I do to make that work? If I push this further... and then bring that... oh gosh. Stupid thing. Actually, we're going to need to do that anyway, so might as well do it now. Basically, what I want to do here is get it so that my... the point where I can get a perfect alignment isn't right before I get there. That way, I've got a bit more time to make corrections and do everything there. But we had an encounter there. Where was that at? Right there. Closest approach, target approach. If we bring that further back, how will we be looking? Actually, what am I using for Delta V at this point? Ooh, a ton of Delta V. Might need to wait and just kind of see how this one goes. Are we even going to get an encounter? Maybe way back there. Nope, it's because it's not aligned. Okay, so we're just going to kind of, actually I'm going to fast forward time a bit and come back to you once we get a little bit better phase angle. Okay, so I've got a little bit better phase angle set up, and I'm pretty sure we'll have an encounter here without much of an issue. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this burn started. It's going to take a little over 14 minutes total burn, so I'm probably not going to make you guys sit through that either, but just want to give you guys an update, and we'll get this burn going. Alright, that should be about good there, and let's start this. And okay, so we're going to time warp, and I'll come back to you guys when we get heading out that way. Okay, we're getting close here to the end of the burn, and as you can see, my tanks are pretty much empty on this stage. This is just getting out of our Kerbal atmosphere too. This is definitely gonna be a close one, I think. Thankfully, this other stage is on here, and we should be okay with this lander. But this will be interesting, I think, to see everything all finished up here. So come on, get in there. Yeah, look at this. We're gonna have like 60 Delta V left. Meters per second Delta V, that is, of course. If that, like, look at this. I'm wasting so much trying to get this last little bit correct here, and that's just like, that's just gonna eat up this stage. That's all that's gonna be left. And I think we're just gonna let it go. So there we go. We're gonna call that good for that burn, and we're gonna clear up this this node, and then get out to the point where we can actually align ourselves with Dres, so we can actually get this all going. So once we do that, we should have a much better idea of what we need to do to actually get an encounter. 2, 1, and that should be zeros. So yeah, look at that. We can definitely tell where we are now in relation. And I think I'm going to adjust that just a hair more, just to make it a bit more accurate, because that'll help a lot, actually. Probably right about there, zeros. And can I bring that in? So our closest approach is there. Target's going to be ahead of us. So what I'm going to need to do is, once we're aligned, I need to slow ourselves down a little bit so that we cut in closer and actually catch up on Dres. So that's the idea here. So let's get up to that node and get that burn going. Okay, so we're out here at the node, and we're going to make this burn count to get that right on the dot is what we're going for here. So let's speed up to about T-22. We're going to start at 24, because it does take time for the engines to spool up. keep that on the node. And let's see here. Whoa. Well, that threw me off for a minute there. That encounter was something. Definitely threw me off there, but that's okay. We should have this no problem still. So let's watch this come down. As soon as it's aligned here, and as soon as this reaches about 0 on the meters per second meter here for delta V, we should know we're right on target. Now once we get in closer here, I'm going to actually zoom in, show you guys the ship a little bit, and kind of give you an idea of what it was built, with what in mind, I should say. So getting in close there, about 5, 2, 1, just a little bit more, and there it is. We're going to call that perfect there. And what we're going to do is I'm going to retarget Dres, so we can take a look at our encounter and figure out what we're going to need to do to actually get this to work. So slowing it down should make for not the right stuff happening. We might need to speed it up and then cut inwards a little bit is going to be the idea, I think. Yeah, that's going to be the ticket. We should be able to do that without much of an issue at all. So cut that in and speed ourselves up. And there it was. Okay. So that should be fine. It's asking for about 16,000 or 1,600 meters per second delta V, which will leave us with over 2,000 delta V left for the break and descent, or at least partial descent, onto the surface of Dres. Now this final stage actually has some delta V in it as well for actually landing. And in fact, I can take a look here and show you guys. It by itself has about 2,000 delta V, so we have approximately a ton. So let's see. Actually, was that right? Was that displayed properly? Yes, it was. Like, we have almost 6,000 meters per second delta V left in this ship. So we have more than enough to complete this. So why don't we go ahead and get up to this node. It's going to take about just shy of 5 minutes to complete this burn. And that's 3 days and 7 hours out, so let's time warp up to that. 1 day. And okay, we're counting down the hours here. Getting in close. 4, 3, 2, 1 hour, well 2 hours technically, but you know what I mean. And last hour counting down. So we're gonna start at about 2.5 minutes before the node is where we're gonna start our burn. A little bit early, but that should be fine. Okay. So 2 minutes and 30 seconds is what we're going for, right down here. Right there. And because this is a long burn, we're going to turn up time warp, and I'm going to take a moment to actually show you this stage while we're out here. Put it into chase mode, and time warp, and I'm going to try to keep an eye on that gauge too. But yeah, so as you can see, it's a larger, it's a half tank Rocco Max with some struts. These small little tanks here, the splitter for the dual rockets here, the adapter, and it's got 4 nuclear engines, 2 on either side, to actually push this with the fuel being taken from this tank first and drawn into these tanks equally and pushed out the engines. And then it detaches here underneath, and this rocket here, or this lander itself, is actually pretty darn well equipped. It's got lights, got landing lights, it's got top lights so that if it needs to be picked up, it can actually open the docking clamp here and be retrieved. It's got these thermal radiators on here, as well as a decent set of landing legs for such a light lander, and a big old tank of fuel on the underside there too. That's all wired up to these little tanks on the outside, but this little itty bitty LV909 engine on the outside. So this is a pretty good little lander setup, I think. It should work just fine for the things we need it for. So let's get this all going. We are nearing the end of this burn, and it's definitely rocking around a little bit. A little bumpy ride in there, but this is, of course, much faster than it actually would be. So let's turn that down as this gets a little bit closer in, and pop back out to our map view to watch this. So we'll bring down our engines for this last little burn here, make it accurate. So I think we have an encounter. Oh, and that's actually counting up, so let's just kill it there. And yeah, we definitely have an encounter. So we're going to go ahead and zip on in to Dres and get ready to circularize our orbit. Okay, so we are getting close here to Dres. As you can see, we're just about ready to enter its sphere of influence here. And our time warp alarm clock should kick in here any moment, it looks like. If it's all working. Yep, there it is. So, okay. And it looks like we're probably coming in from the underside. Yeah, we're coming in below, probably, and gonna loop around it. Hopefully we can get into a nice equatorial orbit, but it's a lander. It's not that big of a deal wherever we land, as long as we get down to the surface. We do have to circularize our orbit. At least, we'll see. Not necessarily have to, we don't necessarily have to circularize our orbit. I could just go for a straight drop, but that usually entails burning off a lot more delta V during your descent onto the surface, which can be a little dangerous. Especially if you're coming in from like solar orbital speeds, which are way higher than what you'd be coming in from a circularized orbit. So okay, let's get into that sphere of influence and plan our node. There it is. It's okay, so not terrible. We're actually up toward the side of it a little bit. Not perfect, but we are going to be going backwards along its sphere. So let's see what we can do to get that fixed. How much are we going to need to burn to actually circularize? Quite a bit. More than... Oh, thankfully. Thankfully not more than we had in the tank, but just barely. So that's going to take pretty much the rest of this tank to finish. What's that going to leave us at? Oh, that's a high orbit. That's fine. What can we do to drop that? Pretty much, we pretty much kill all of this stage. Well, actually, we'd have about 100 meters per second left on this stage, and it would drop us right down to the surface. Why don't we do that? I'll make it nice and quick. So that's going to be about a 5-minute and 9-second burn, and about 3 hours and 14 minutes here. So thankfully this ship has just enough fuel to accomplish this. I need to start building them a little smaller when I be actually going out to other places, though Joule should be interesting. Being the big gas giant that it is, I might actually be able to use its atmosphere to help us brake, so we won't need as much fuel to actually circularize if I can get the periaps just right as we come into Joule, and I can dip into the atmosphere. I can actually use the drag from the atmosphere to slow down our speed and hopefully capture us without needing to use any fuel whatsoever, which is tricky. More so in real life, obviously. In real life you have to worry about the heat. We don't have to worry about that in the game just yet. Just yet is the key. Hopefully one of these updates soon enough will add that heat, and we'll have to plan for that kind of stuff too, though cool system. Might be able to pull it off to some degree. It'll just be a lot more touchy, and we'd have to manage things a lot better. So let's go ahead and fast forward our time here. Time warp up to our node. Okay, it's about 30 minutes out, and drop in about 9 minutes. Slow that down. So we're gonna start at about 2 minutes 35 seconds, but probably about 2 minutes 40 seconds really is what we're gonna shoot for, which we're getting close to. Okay. So coming in here, let's go ahead and just get that going. Okay. So bringing that on in there, let's turn down the throttle and watch this thing just get a bit lower here. Should happen pretty quick. Do need to keep that throttle on though. So we can watch that periaps just drop until it gets pretty darn close to the surface. I don't think I'm actually going to make a collision. I think I'm just going to go just until we're just a hair off the surface. So that if we want to, we can pull back out and not crash. So let's call it right there. At about... Oh! Too much? Too much. Didn't mean to hit that. That's okay. That's easy to fix. We just flip around to the prograde real quick and give it just a quick tap of fuel. And that should put us just a hair above. That's what you get for hovering your finger right over the shift key, it seems. So is that enough? Yeah, that'll put us about 5,000. Just a hair under 5,000. Which should be enough to bypass any sort of stuff on the surface, I would think. Though, you know, I don't really know much about the surface of Dres here. Though, if I had to guess, if I can focus on it, that should still keep me above the surface, just barely. Actually, you know what? I don't really trust that. Let's do that. 7,000. That's should be safe. Should certainly be safe, I would think. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom on in. We'll get rid of that node, and we'll get ready to land this thing, shall we? Okay, so as you can see, we are coming in here to the surface, getting pretty close now. We're a bit high still. We're going to be dropping a little bit for a little while longer here. Now, I want to try to find a good place to land. Now, this actually looks pretty flat and would be a good place to land. We need to burn off quite a bit of fuel. Now, what I'd like to do is once we get past our periaps, we'll stop gaining speed and we'll start losing speed because we're going to be climbing altitude again. Now, at that point, it'll be easier to stop, but not by much. So if I find a good spot to land, I might just take it. I'm thinking to try to land somewhere around this crater. Just for, you know, fake, I guess, observational reasoning or whatever you want to call it. So let's go ahead and, I'm actually going to burn this off right here. Just let this thing go. Just use up that fuel. It's going to be actually pulling in this. It's not going to be dropping us too much since we have so much speed building back out. But there goes that. Let's kill the throttle and just give it a little bit of juice. Pull ourselves away from that thing a bit. Extend those landing legs. And why don't we go ahead and flip on our lights? Okay. Well, what was that? Nothing important, I hope. Sounded like an explosion of some kind, and I don't think that was our ship. I think that was just some sort of goofiness. But okay, that's actually brought our apoaps in quite a lot. So we want to land at this crater, so let's go ahead and just start flooring it, shall we? This should be good enough to bring us down around this crater. Now, if I do this, I might actually be able to position ourselves so that we fly a little toward that crater. Because that's what I'd like, is to get down to that crater a bit. So that's good there. Let's push that a little bit further. Nope. There we go. How's that? That should put us pretty much right in the center of the crater a little bit. That should be good for landing, I think. Though I think I want to burn a little further out to not land on that rim. How's that looking? That looks pretty good. So for now, we're going to go ahead and do some time warping. I'm going to turn on precision controls, just make this a little bit quicker. So you guys don't have to sit through a huge long landing sequence. These things can take a while, I know. We are gaining speed going down here. Not too fast, thankfully. Dres is still a pretty low gravity planet, so you don't build your speed too quickly coming down. We are about 15,000 meters off the surface, so let's go ahead and start planning to kill this. Because we're a kilometer off the actual surface now. So let's bring up, I think I want this. This should have my... Nope, not that. Is it cockpit 3? Yes. It is cockpit 3. that has time to impact, suicide burn countdown time. So basically that tells me if I go full throttle at that exact countdown, how long it'll take, or the last very possible second that I can do a final burn to not kill ourselves. So a little bit over 100 meters off the surface, I'm gonna do a landing like this, I think. So just watching the speed up here and watching our approaching. Whoa! Okay, we need to tilt just a little. I think we got it. There we go. We are landed on the surface. So all set. Let's go ahead and get this thing all deployed, shall we? Pop up our... Oops, it's not 4, it's 2. Kill our engines. Pop up those. Aw, what happened to that? My thing die? Apparently my cockpit 3 view died. I don't know why that happens. It's so weird. But okay, let's deploy the ladder. And I think I'm actually going to keep on the lights. Let's turn on all of our instruments for our Kerbals to do their sciencey things. If you guys haven't heard, they've posted some new information on the KSP Wikipedia page, the one that they host on their Squad's website, that kind of shows stuff for the next update, or things that they had planned for the next update. It looks like they've got some cool stuff planned. They've got a tech tree coming up. I think they've got a few other things coming up, like what was the other one? Some science modules, so that there's ways to do science. They're just calling it science. No fancy anything for it just yet at this point. Oh, I don't think my ladder's perfect. I don't think that rung on the battery actually counts as a ladder piece. I put it there assuming that they'd be able to grab it, and I don't think that's gonna work. That's okay though. Such low gravity, these guys can pretty much just jump right up to the door. Well, good to know. I need to fix that on this ship, it looks like. But look at that, he is happy as a clam. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us. We will come back at you guys next time with probably going out to Jewel, since it's kind of next on the list. See you guys soon. Cheers.